In our last video, we talked about Pope Alexander VI. Born Rodrigo Borgia, he was one of the most notorious popes in history. And even as a pope, he openly had children from his mistresses. And of these children, two figures stand out: his daughter Lucrezia Borgia and his son Cesare. Today, we will talk about Lucrezia. Lucrezia Borgia is one of the most controversial figures tied to Alexander VI. Among the many salacious rumors surrounding the Borgia family, one of the most shocking is the accusation that Alexander had an incestuous relationship with Lucrezia. But it doesn't stop there. According to some, Lucrezia also had an affair with her brother Cesare Borgia. These claims, whether true or fabricated, have solidified the Borgias' place as one of history's most infamous families. She was the third child of Giovanna dei Catenai. Giovanna is usually called Vanuzza. Vanuzza had 4 children from Cardinal Rodrigo de Borgia, who later became Pope Alexander VI. The eldest was Cesare, then Giovanni, who was often called by his Spanish name Juan. The third was Lucrezia, then the youngest, Geoffrey. They also had many other half-siblings from Alexander VI's many mistresses, but they were among the few that Rodrigo openly acknowledged as his children. It is said she was a bright and intelligent young girl, who was fluent in Spanish, Catalan, Italian, and French. She was also educated in humanities, and learned Latin and Greek as well. She was also said to have been strikingly beautiful, with long golden hair. In 1493, when she was 13, she married 27-year-old Giovanni Sforza. Alexander VI wanted to ally with Milan and the Sforza family to bolster his influence in northern Italy. But when the French King Charles VIII invaded Italy in 1494, and the Sforza's grip on Milan seemed questionable, the alliance with the Sforza family lost its strategic value. The Pope needed new, more advantageous political alliances. Some say he ordered Giovanni killed, but Lucrezia got a wind of this from her brother Cesare and warned her husband to flee Rome. Some say she herself tried to kill her husband. Whatever the case, having failed to kill Giovanni off and divorce not being an option at that time in the Catholic Church, Alexander VI decided to annul Lucrezia's marriage to Giovanni. He claimed that Lucrezia's marriage was never consummated due to Giovanni's alleged impotence. Giovanni was not happy, but Alexander VI asked Giovanni's uncle, Cardinal Ascanio Sforza, to persuade Giovanni to agree to an annulment. Eventually, Giovanni caved into the pressure and signed a humiliating document stating that he was impotent and agreed to the annulment of the marriage. At least he was allowed to keep Lucrezia's dowry. This process of getting the annulment took quite some time, and Lucrezia was sent to a convent during that time period. Turned out, Lucrezia was pregnant. It is unclear whether this was her husband's child, but if it was, Alexander VI would never acknowledge it, since, after all, her husband was supposed to be impotent. There was also rumor that the baby's father was Alexander's chamberlain, Pedro Calderón. The fact that Calderón was found dead around the time of the baby's birth also fueled this rumor. Anyways, a child was born, whoever the father was. And, in fact, it was never quite proven that Lucrezia was the mother at all. But nonetheless, there was a baby, Giovanni Borgia. And soon, 2 papal decrees were issued, one saying the child was Cesare Borgia's son from an affair, and the other one, a secret one, saying the child was a son of Alexander VI. Lucrezia's name was not mentioned in either, but the mysterious circumstances around the baby's birth intensified the rumor that she was the mother of the baby, born from the incestuous relationship with either her brother or her father. Soon after, in 1498, Lucrezia married her second husband, Alfonso of Aragon. Alfonso was the heir to the Kingdom of Naples. This marriage was Alexander VI's next strategic move to strengthen ties with Naples. Forming a close relationship with the Pope was something Naples also wanted, and Alfonso's half-sister Sancha of Aragon was already married to the Pope's youngest son Geoffrey a few years earlier. At that time, Lucrezia was 18 and Alfonso was 17. The youthful Alfonso was fair and amiable, and he was the most handsome young man ever seen in the imperial city. Lucrezia herself reportedly liked Alfonso, who was young and handsome. The couple remained in Rome after their marriage, and soon Lucrezia became pregnant with their child. But the happiness did not last long. King Louis XII of France, who had become the king only a year earlier, wanted to expand into Italy, particularly into the kingdom of Naples. Lucrezia's brother Cesare also wanted to expand his own power and influence. He decided to betray Alfonso and his family and ally with France to aid them to take over Naples. He married Charlotte d'Albret, a close relative of Louis XII. Alfonso found out about the Borgias' betrayal and France's plan to invade Naples and fled Rome, leaving the 6 months pregnant Lucrezia. Alfonso was still very much in love with Lucrezia during this time, and sent her a letter trying to persuade her to leave Rome and to join him. But unfortunately, Lucrezia's family discovered this letter and ordered Lucrezia to lure Alfonso to meet her back in Rome. As instructed by her father and brother, she pleaded Alfonso to return to Rome, to be with her and their soon-to-be-born child. Alfonso could not refuse. He eventually met Lucrezia, who came to meet him halfway, and came back to Rome with her. In November 1499, Lucrezia gave birth to their son, named Rodrigo. Alfonso and Lucrezia spent a few months of fragile happiness together, but both of them knew Lucrezia's father and brother saw Alfonso and the connection with Naples as the political liability against the alliance with France. On the night of July 15, 1500, Alfonso was ambushed on the street by hired assassins. He was stabbed in the head, arm, and leg. As the attackers tried to drag him away, Alfonso's guards fought them off and carried Alfonso back to the Borgia Tower, to his wife Lucrezia and his half-sister Sancha. He was severely injured, but it seemed like he was going to recover. But unfortunately, things were not that easy. On the night of August 18th, a man named Micheletto Corella crept into his chamber with a small group of armed men. They strangled Alfonso in his bed. Many people believed Cesare Borgia was behind the assassination, but this accusation was never proven. Lucrezia was devastated by her husband's death and went into mourning. She blamed herself for bringing Alfonso back to Rome only to have him murdered. She doted on their baby son, who was the only reminder of her beloved Alfonso. But a quiet life as a widow and mother was not in her path. After Alfonso's death, Lucrezia's father, Pope Alexander VI, arranged a third marriage for her, this time with Alfonso d'Este, Duke of Ferrara. The Duchy of Ferrara was initially not so eager to go through with this marriage. They were not keen on Lucrezia, who was not only married twice before, but was also a member of the infamous Borgia family, known for its scandalous reputation. There were rumors that Lucrezia wears a ring with a hidden compartment for poison and killed anyone who displeased her. But nonetheless, forming an alliance with the powerful Borgia family that controlled a large swath of central Italy was a significant political advantage. The Pope also offered a large dowry, which ultimately swayed the Duke to accept the proposal. So, the marriage eventually took place in 1502. For this third marriage, Lucrezia was obliged to simulate the appearance of a virgin spouse, notwithstanding her 2 previous marriages and birth of a child. So she was forced to leave Rodrigo, her only child, with Alfonso. Rodrigo died at the age of 12. Her third marriage was a relatively long and uneventful one. She moved to Ferrara and had many children with Alfonso d'Este. She seemed to have become a respectable Renaissance duchess. As was somewhat common in the noble marriages, neither Lucrezia nor her husband remained faithful, and each had a string of affairs. Lucrezia had an affair with her brother-in-law Francesco Gonzaga, who was married to her husband's sister. She also had an affair with poet Pietro Bembo and left behind passionate love letters. But nonetheless, she stayed with her third husband until her death, enjoying a relatively peaceful life, definitely compared to her drama-filled earlier marriages. After the sudden death of Pope Alexander VI, the Borgia family's power crumbled instantly. However, unlike her family, Lucrezia continued to enjoy a flourishing life in Ferrara. And finally free of her family's overbearing influence, she re-established her reputation as a respectable duchess immersed in Renaissance art and culture. And in Ferrara, she proved herself to be a capable and popular duchess. She became a patron to a flourishing arts community. Her husband loved to travel, and whenever he was away, she skillfully administered affairs of state at Ferrara. On June 14, 1519, Lucrezia gave birth to her 10th child, named Isabella Maria in honor of Alfonso's sister Isabella d'Este, wife of her former lover Francesco Gonzaga. The birth was a complicated one. The child was weak, and Lucrezia also fell seriously ill after the birth. And, after seeming to recover for a few days, she worsened again and died on June 24 at the age of 39. Her life was dramatized and written about in many works of historical fictions. Some portray her as the lustful and depraved woman who lured her first 2 husbands into death. Others portray her as a hapless victim of her family, who was used as a political pawn by her power-hungry father and her ambitious brother. Maybe she was all of them, or none of them. Her later life, once freed from her family's influence, show a smart and capable woman. In our next video, we will continue with the story of the Borgias, looking into the life of Cesare and the famous literary work inspired by his life. So please like and subscribe to continue receiving our upcoming episodes. Also, please check out our playlist for other series from French and Spanish history. It really helps a small channel like us.